Hi, I'm Cheryl Kagan, very proud to be the Senator for Gaithersburg and Rockville. Welcome to this week's edition of Kibbitzing with Kagan, brief conversations with people I find fascinating. Now, I'm a little biased today because my guest is Rachel Robin, who I have just promoted from Legislative and Communications Coordinator to become my Chief of Staff. So, Rachel, thank you for taking a break from your long to-do list to kibitz with me today.
Yeah, absolutely. Thank you for having me. I'm excited to be here and excited for the job.
Yay. So I have a lot of questions because I want the opportunity for people who haven't met you yet to get to know some of your background and some of your many mad skills. So first off, why don't you talk about your background, where you grew up, where you went to college and all that?
I grew up right around the corner from District 17 in Germantown, Maryland. I lived there my whole life. I went to Poolsville High School, and then I went to the University of Maryland in College Park. So, go Terps.
Go Terps.
I studied government and politics and communication. I got 2 degrees, and I graduated in 2023.
Okay. When you were a child, what did you dream of being in as your career when you grew up?
When I was little, I wanted to be a marine biologist. I wanted to work with sea otters in California. And then I went to marine biology camp and I dissected a whole bunch of stuff and I decided I didn't want to do that for a career. So
Wow, that was a very specific dream. That's kind of cool.
thank you.
Okay, that's really different. At College Park, what was your favorite class? And if you'd like to give a shout out to a favorite teacher, you can do that too.
That's a good question. I would say my favorite class was actually probably state and local government, taught by Professor Rouse. Um, I it was actually the class I got the worst grade in throughout my college career,
Wow.
but I didn't care because I found it so interesting and I went into it thinking I wouldn't like it. I thought I wanted to work in the federal government, as do so many people. And then I took that class and I realized just how much power there is at the state and local level.
Amen. And now look at you. That's
Mhm.
awesome. So you applied, interviewed, and I hired you in 2023, and you came on staff. What was the biggest surprise? Because you came on right before session.
Yes, I started 8 days before the 2024 legislative session.
No stress on either of us at all.
I had absolutely no idea what to expect. I think the biggest shock was the variety of tasks that I would be doing that I did, from working on bills to meeting with lobbyists and messaging constituents and just working to make sure that the office was running smoothly, that you had everything that you needed. Um, there was there was a lot going on in session, and I dove right in.
Yes, you did. Yes, you did. And you did an amazing job.
Thank you.
What was the hardest thing and what was the most fun thing?
The hardest thing was probably, um, hmm, I would say the hardest thing was probably being able to switch tasks quickly.
Mhm.
I am pretty organized, and sometimes I like to work on one thing and then work on another and kind of time block, and that's just not how it works.
Yeah,
Not how it worked in the 2024 legislative session.
right.
So I would be working on something, and then something else would come up, and it's like, okay, we're switching gears. And then
Boom. Yeah.
4 hours later, I would remember what I was working on, and but I learned to manage it, but that was definitely hard. That was a shock. The
Yeah.
most fun thing was just seeing government in action, I think, when I would come into the committee room or um, be able to go onto the Senate floor a couple times. It was just a really interesting opportunity to see the people all together who are making the changes that affect everyone's lives in Maryland.
Love that. Um, the interim, after the Senate adjourned in mid-April, then it starts the rest of the year. And a lot of people, a lot of my constituents believe that I only work 3 months a year, and then the rest of the time I'm on vacation and eating bonbons and whatever. Why don't you talk about some of the stuff that you've been working on or we've been working on since adjournment?
One of the biggest priorities for me has been managing constituent casework. We get a lot of people who reach out with problems with state government. Their, XYZ agency isn't being responsive, or their kid needs help with access to some kind of service. And making sure that the people you represent, my neighbors, are getting the services they need from the state government that's supposed to represent them is critically important. In addition, of course, we're preparing for next session. I think that started the day after last session ended, so it's always looking ahead.
It feels like it, doesn't it? This is a campaign year. You are a state government employee and not a political appointee. But certainly you're aware that there's a campaign going on. Does it affect you, and what are you learning about election stuff? Because I do election legislation. How is that on your radar screen?
You do, and it certainly does affect me. It was, I think, it's interesting to take a look at how people like me who work in the government are not supposed to be political activists. So I'm not going out and representing one party or another. I think it's pretty obvious, like, where my political views lie just based on who I work for.
Mhm.
But yeah, it is interesting when my friends come to me and they say, "Oh, well, you work in government. Why don't you tell me how I should vote in the school
Mm.
board thing?" And
Mm.
all I can say is, I'm never going to tell somebody how to vote.
Mm.
Um, I think that people can make their own decisions, but I am certainly in the business of swaying people.
I am so interested in that. So, because you can be an influencer, you're an opinion leader now because you're informed, people will come to you.
Mhm.
And I know that I am a multiplier. I make my decision, cast my vote, but then the number of people who ask me for my recommendations and then who ask their friends, and it's and so on and so on and so on. And it does have the ripples in the pool to have that impact. That's interesting. Um, like me, you are Jewish and active in the Jewish community. How do your Jewish values affect your work and affect your outlook and prioritization on issues?
The Jewish people value learning, continual learning. Um, and people I know who are aiming to spend their entire lives studying Jewish literature, the Torah, things like that, recognize that they're never going to know everything.
Mm.
So I think when you take that and then you multiply it to everything else in the world, that knowledge that I'm never going to know everything and that I can always continue learning is really what fuels me.
I like it. Um, I always call myself a word nerd and a grammar geek, and you're a great writer.
Thank you.
Talk about I don't know, you do a lot of writing for me, and then I edit the crap out of everyone's work, but less so for you. What's a grammar thing? What's your biggest pet peeve, grammar pet peeve, whether or not you and I agree on it?
I think it's pretty obvious to a lot of people, but I am a big fan of the Oxford comma.
Yay.
Yes, that was really important to me, actually. I remember asking you, I said, "Do you use the Oxford comma?" And you said yes. And I was like, phew, because I don't know if I could work for you if you didn't.
I don't think I would have said yes. I would have said, hell yeah, or absolutely, or something. I'm a big Oxford comma person. It's very funny. 2025. It feels like eons away, but it also feels like it's around the corner some days. What are you most anticipating? What are you most focused on? What are you most excited about?
I'm excited to not be learning the ropes as I do my work. I'm excited to just have a little bit more experience under my belt, be able to focus on what needs to get done and not as much on how do I do it, but just on doing it. I think legislation wise, I think I'm a little biased, but I think you're on the most fun committee. So
Yes.
I am excited to see what comes before the committee, what you bring in front of the committee, in front of other committees. Yeah, definitely. I have I suppose, a background in education. I worked as an intern for the Maryland State Department of Education. And so I am really interested to see what kind of education bills come forward in 2025.
Love it. Anything I haven't asked you that you want to talk about before we pivot to the Fast Five?
Um, I would add that I am a recent resident of District 17. Um, so when I said my neighbors, I really meant it. I am interested in, it could be the person right next door to me in the apartment next door, who is emailing you, and that it feels more impactful to know the streets and know the buildings and everything that I'm working to help.
I love that. I love that. Well, I have said this to you privately, but I think I had to say this publicly on this kibitz, which is I think you're amazing and you've done such great work already. And I'm so delighted that that we're going to get to continue to work together because you are smart and a good writer and thorough and organized and attentive to details and kind and passionate about helping people with their problems and listening to their opinions and just I think you bring great stuff to our office, and I'm really delighted. So thank you.
Thank you.
Of course. So Rachel Robin, it is time for the Fast Five. 5 quick questions, 5 quick answers. Question number 1. When you are not working, what do you do to relax?
I make art. I paint. I crochet. I embroider. Everything.
Need to do show and tell at some point, but not on today's
Okay.
thing. Question number 2. What is your favorite junk food?
Chocolate, although I've heard that there are some health benefits, so I
Dark
don't know if it's
milk,
exactly.
milk,
Let's
dark, white.
I'll eat it all, but I like dark chocolate the most.
Okay. All right. Good answer. Uh, question number 3. What is your favorite Broadway musical?
Come From Away is my favorite Broadway musical.
Okay, and that has been on my to watch list. And okay, so that is going to make me watch it. Okay,
It's
for
a
sure.
beautiful story, and the music is fantastic.
So for those who haven't heard of it, it is the story after 9/11 from a small Canadian town where multiple planes landed and how they reached out and just supported the passengers in a time of crisis. Is that a reasonable explanation?
Yeah, the US airspace was closed, so planes coming from across the Atlantic had to land somewhere, and they landed in Newfoundland.
Amazing. Okay. Speaking of airplanes and stuff, question number 4. If you could travel anywhere in the world and time and money were no objects, where would you want to go that you haven't been to before?
You said time and money were no object,
Yes.
but I would hope that seasickness would not be an object either, because I would like to go to Antarctica. I have been to the 6 other continents, and I want to check off number 7, but I've heard that the voyage there can be pretty rocky.
Okay. All right. And you know this one's coming, so I don't expect a pause the way I have with some guests. Rachel Robin, my chief of staff, what is your hidden secret superpower? What is a skill or talent you have, something you're really good at that most folks can't do?
I mentioned it earlier, actually, but I'm very organized. I use something called the Alistair method, which is I have a column for every day of the week and then a column for my tasks. And so I'll write down one task and then I can put an open circle in the appropriate column for if I want to do it on Monday, and then I fill it in if I've done it on Monday.
Okay. Well, yay you. I am the beneficiary of your Alistair method, and I'm grateful for that. So Rachel, thank you for all that you do, have done, and will do for me and for the residents of District 17, as well as for policies that are important and will help improve the lives, the economy, the elections, the nonprofits, all the things in Maryland. So really lucky to be able to work with you. Thank you for taking the time to kibitz today.
Absolutely. Thank you for giving me the opportunity to affect change.
Thank you. See you soon.